Hello everyone, and welcome to the Digimon Ghost Game video. This time I'm going to be talking about episode 64 of Ghost Game, which is called The Call. Now, straight away off the bat, we are thrown into the events of the episode. We have Kiyoshiro and Ruli investigating reports of a strange voice, while Hiro is on his way back from a fishing trip with his two friends. Now, since they're on a fishing trip and are catching a boat back, they notice that the boat is running a little bit late, and that is because the boat has been impacted by the strange voice, which turns out to be the Call of Cthulhumon, which is Dagomon, of course, in a very similar way to how Dagomon appeared in 02 in the fog. We have a similar kind of fog enveloping the entire area. So we have Hiro being able to avoid the ominous kind of chanting that's going on by putting himself in a little protective bubble with the Digivice, which is a pretty handy way of avoiding the kind of scary, ominous chanting that goes on. It rings in your ears, and the way that this episode kind of goes about it makes it kind of like bone chilling. It's kind of creepy. This episode in general is rather creepy for various different reasons. Of course, we have the obligatory body horror. The humans that are being called by this voice end up becoming like, I guess, sea people. They grow gills, their necks become long, their skin becomes green. They kind of become horrifying, and the whole process of it was, in general, fairly horrifying. Not just the body horror imagery, but the fact that we get sound effects, which Ghost Game always really likes to turn it up to 11 with the body horror, and especially with the sound effects, it becomes a lot kind of more visceral. I think that's a good word to describe it. The fact that their necks are kind of bending and growing and snapping, and we get that kind of bone creaking sound effect in the background. So that's fairly unpleasant and, yes, fairly visceral. So the humans are all becoming these lizard people. Then we have basically any evolutions in this episode other than to Siriusmon are actually skipped, which I feel like that's the first time we've skipped so many evolutions all in one go. We have Gamamon looking kind of like he's going to protect Hiro, and then we cut back to what Kiyoshiro and Ruli are doing, and then we cut back to Hiro, and then we have Can and Weissmon, and then we cut back to Ruli and Kiyoshiro, and they have their Digimon in their perfect forms as well. Then we have Espimon evolving to Hover Espimon when he flies by to pick up Hiro, and he also kind of gets like a quick evolution. It's not a full animation, he kind of just becomes like a glowing orb in the sky and then just changes, which we haven't really had in this series as much. We had it a lot in Adventure Colon, where maybe the first time they evolved would get like a bigger animation, and then every other time, every subsequent time, especially if they were running short for times, we would have like a split second evolution. And I guess that's kind of a testament to how much stuff this episode had going on, where the animators didn't want to waste any time with our stock footage evolutions. And when I say stock footage, I mean the animation that is always the same in every single evolution. How it's just like in Ghost Game, it's the human holding up their Vata bracelet, and then the Digimon evolving, and it's similar for most seasons. They would have like the same animation for the evolution every single time. But we didn't get that. We had either the one we got with Espimon, which is you just evolved on the spot, without like a big animation kind of to signify the evolution, and then with the other forms, except for Siriusmon, who got like the normal stock footage animation, we have them just evolving off camera when we're kind of reverting to and from different characters. The annoying thing is that it was sort of implied that all the perfects became perfect level at around the same time, but Thetismon and Lamortmon's evolution timers seem to revert them back to child, whereas Gamamon, as Can and Weissmon, is able to evolve to Siriusmon. This was kind of annoying because we saw Can and Weissmon appear before we saw the other two, but they had the evolution timeout and Kanamaismon didn't. I'm kind of annoyed that that happened because all in all, the battle wasn't even necessary. We didn't even need Sirismon to be there because while he fought Dagomon, he didn't actually defeat him, and what happened was the exciting plot point of the series happened, where Dagomon is sucked back into the digital world portal because Hiro's father, Hokuto, and his assistant Terriermon, who is Terriermon assistant, not just regular Terriermon, which is, yay, I love seeing Digimon that have been around for a bit but never really animated. So we get assistant Terriermon, so that's A+, and they just come out of the portal as Dagomon kind of is sucked back into it. So we get some plot. It is interesting also how Blacktailmon arrives on Cathylamon, Cathylamon being a mega form and stronger than Dagomon, but in terms of the Cthulhu mythos, Cathyla is Cthulhu's daughter as far as I'm aware. So it is kind of weird that we have Cathylamon show up and not like, unless I missed it, she didn't say anything. I might have missed something, but maybe it was just like a slight like reference of just her being there. I'm not sure. But we have Cathylamon show up, which is I'm really happy about. I'm glad that we get to see Cathylamon again. She wasn't just a one and done character. I like that. I'm glad that we're seeing more of this new Digimon. Big fan of that. Even though she just kind of exists. Like, she exists as a ferry for Blacktailmon over to be delivered to the characters. And then, of course, we have Hokuto and Terriermon Assistant show up. So we have the plot. I like how they kind of show up and Hokuto kind of falls flat on his face and Terriermon kind of like lands gracefully next to him. Big fan of that. And then, of course, we get some pretty cool shots of various Digimon that we have met through the series. Some that have appeared various times like Clockmon and Mummymon, but others like the Digimon from the Tesla Jellymon debut episode, where we had the fighting game kind of going on, and we also have Koemon/Monmon appear as well in these scenes, and Repamon. So it's nice to see these Digimon that we might not have seen as much since their episode of Ghost Game. And we have them all reacting and shuddering and crying, especially in Jellymon's case, she is crying her eyes out, which is heartbreaking. And they're all reacting to the fact that the digital world has disappeared. Which, that's kind of concerning, because I was like, oh, we're going to go to the digital world. We're going to go to the digital world. No, we're not. We are not going to the digital world because, or at least, doesn't seem to be, because it has disappeared. So, I know there's the synopses, which I read out last week, but I won't mention anything because some people do want to avoid those synopses, and that's totally valid. But I'm basically expecting plot to happen right here, and it's pretty much safe to say that plot does happen as of here, because look, Hero's dad's here. Another thing I noticed was that, one, we got more shots of like the back of Gamamon having like that little black ooze from last week's episode, and then another thing is that Hokuto was also wearing a vital bracelet, but it looks slightly different from the other vital bracelets that we've had, which is surprising that Bandai haven't released a strap for this, because Bandai loves product placement. So we have him wearing his own vital bracelet, that's cool. I'm wondering who his partner Digimon is. I guess maybe Assistant Terriermon. I originally, very, very early on in the series, I thought it might be Blacktailmon Uva, but maybe he has multiple, because the vital bracelet tends to be like that, both in the actual toy and the show itself. We can kind of like evolve different Digimon. And we even have Espimon point out, hey, Hokuto, you said that Hiro was splitting image of you, and then Hiro's dad is like, really? Did I? Oh. Like, it's just kind of funny that that was like a quick mention. So that's basically it for what happened in this week's episode. It was kind of fine. It was fantastically animated. The use of sun as the sun was setting before the fog set in, that was just amazing looking. There was a great use of lights in that sunset, so big fan of that. In general, the body horror is always phenomenal and creepy, and the sound effects really, really turned it up to like way past 11 at this point. It was pretty gross. And the episode itself was fine. It stepped us into the start of the plot, presumably, and we now have Hiro's dad appearing, so I kind of see this episode as a necessary step towards the plot, but I do have a few gripes, mainly with the fact I don't know why we had to have Sirismon. It would have been nice to replace the time spent on just getting to Sirismon and then the fight with maybe some lore about what exactly was happening with Digimon, or maybe a little bit more plot, or a little bit, I don't know, I would have appreciated more like lore behind Digimon existing, maybe some Cathylamon reacting to Digimon showing up, because I'm assuming that they have some connection there, in the same way that in the Pharaohmon episode and Ancient Sphinxmon episode, we had Mummymon having, like, you know, a few words to say about the fact that he has the same origins as these Digimon. We could have had the same with Cathylamon. I'm not sure, I mean, I'm not going to criticize an episode for what it didn't do. However, I don't feel like the evolution to Sirismon was necessary at all. They didn't really fight. I mean, they fought, but there wasn't even really a point to a fight because Digimon just got eaten by a portal anyway. So I'm kind of wondering if what could have been done if we weren't going to have Sirismon. But overall, those are my thoughts on this week's episode. Yes, Ghost Game does appear to be wrapping up. We have next week's episode, and then the week after that, there's a 1 week long hiatus, and then after that, presumably, we get stuck into the last few episodes, with the episode count kind of finishing on episode 68, because we've already got another anime that isn't Digimon related to show up the week after, where episode 68 would be. So we have a few more episodes to go. I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, I don't see how that they could wrap this up in just a few episodes. I absolutely can. I feel like that not that many plot points have been dropped, so there's not many things to tie up at all. We've already got Hiro's father, Tick, he's there, and we basically just have what's going on, who's the big bad, what do we need to do, and I'm honestly wondering if the big bad is going to be Phalesmon or related to Weedmon, because they're both Digimon who kind of left like, yes, we'll behave. Especially with the Weedmon, who was just like, yeah, sure, we'll behave, yeah, certainly. And Phalesmon was just being like, nah, I'm bored, I'm gonna leave. I'm still gonna be evil, but I'm just gonna leave. I feel like that's a good way to have a big bad. We also have the vampire Digimon who are kind of like, hey, we're just gonna leave. Like we're vampires. We can kind of like explode into bats and just like leave. So we're gonna do that. And then they did. So I'm wondering if we get like, I don't know, Grand Dracumon show up and be like, I am the ultimate evil. Phalesmon showing up like, I'm a perfect level and y'all can evolve to Mega, but like I'm a threat. Or just like 3 million Weedmon just descend upon everyone being kind of evil and disgusting. And that's like, I don't know. But I feel like that there haven't been that many plot points that need to be wrapped up. And I feel like the last few episodes would be able to tie that up perfectly. And I feel like that could be done fairly well. I'm fairly hopeful for the end of the show, because I've been really enjoying the last few episodes, and I feel like if they continue at this level, I will enjoy all of Ghost Game, which is good. It will probably rank up top 3 along Atmon, Sabers, and Tamers, unless they botch the ending completely, and then it will probably be like, maybe like, probably above Adventure and 02, I guess, so kind of like either the bottom of the tops or like the top of the average. I don't know. I'll work it out. Maybe I need to rewatch all the other seasons to formulate a full ranking. But in any case, those are my thoughts on this week's episode. Let me know your thoughts on Ghost Game Ending or this week's episode or whatever in the comment section below. Like this video for Ghost Game Ending, whether it be something that you're sad about, something that you're ecstatic about. Maybe you didn't like Ghost Game and you're finally wanting it to be over. Maybe you're just excited that there's plot. Like this video anyway. Maybe it helps me in the algorithm. Who knows? But like the video and maybe we'll find out. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your boss, maybe, I don't know, depends on what kind of boss they are. And yes, I will hope to see you in the next video. Bye!